Hey guys, this is Mike, the Crippler Cresta, and
Johnny Nailz.
And this is the Crippler Nailz Show, podcast number 5. Today I think we got a pretty good story to go off with. So
so we also have a page up on Facebook, and we follow a lot of wrestling pages on our personal pages, and there was a page, I don't remember the name off the top of the head. They were doing their little anniversary celebration, 2-year anniversary, and one of the admins on that page was talking about their personal Hall of Fame and brought up the fact that he was going to induct Chris Benoit into his personal Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
And he specifically stated he was doing it for wrestling purposes, not whatever he did in his personal life. Now, I used to watch WCW a lot when I was younger, and I followed Chris Benoit from the day he was in WCW down to the day he debuted with the Radicals in WWE to the WrestleMania 20 moment of him beating Shawn Michaels and Triple H, to the very last moment where he was supposed to put over CM Punk. And I personally believe, he deserves to be in the WWE Hall of Fame. We have a convicted felon and rapist in Mike Tyson in the WWE Hall of Fame, and I'm a big Mike Tyson fan, but until they can prove he murdered his family, he's innocent until proven guilty. This is America. Now he can't be tried because he's dead, but there's so many things pointing the other way, and there's others
possible
pointing
foul
one way. Where you really can't know. So everybody who's sitting there and making a judgment on what he did, you're a fucking idiot. You're not God yourself to sit there and place any judgment. Now, if you believe in God, that's on you or not. That's your personal preference. But my personal opinion, he belongs in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really know who Chris Benoit was. I was primarily a WWE guy growing up. I rarely watched WCW because, I don't know, I was never interested in it. So for me, I didn't know Chris Benoit until he came over in the Radicals, and I remember even then being like, "Wow, this guy can really wrestle. He can really go." I mean, he kind of looked like my uncle, which was kind of weird, but he was a hell of a performer, man. And I would definitely say he's a Hall of Famer. He may not be a first ballot Hall of Famer. But he was a technical genius, and I mean, and when he won this title and Eddie came out, it was like a moment that was just like, it was perfect. It
was perfect.
It was great storytelling. It was absolute great storytelling, and I do agree. I think that he should be in the Hall of Fame based on his performance and not his personal life.
Not only that, I mean, for whatever reason, they studied his brain after everything happened. Yeah. He had the mind of an 85-year-old person with Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
This guy wrestled day in and day out.
Concussions,
I'm sorry.
Injuries.
Nowadays, you hear people complaining about the fact that they have a sore toe. I stubbed my toe. I can't wrestle. This guy went out there and probably would have wrestled with a broken neck. He would have done Kurt Angle during the Olympics and wrestled with a broken neck.
Probably might have.
And ever since he passed away, a lot of people say it was Eddie. Eddie died of a heart attack. They started with the whole drug situation,
and they believe that
when he was heavily into drugs.
Yeah, and they believe that also steroids played a foul play.
But thanks to Chris Benoit, now you have, obviously the WWE doesn't really follow it, but you do have, the substance policy where it's, 3 strikes and you're out. You can't wrestle for the company ever again. You have, the concussions limit. Now, Dolph Ziggler's career is being prolonged. Fandango's career is being prolonged. Daniel Bryan, who was apparently suffered a concussion right before Royal Rumble's career, can be prolonged for the simple fact that now you have concussions being taken care of. Now
you have impact testing.
Impact testing, and it wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for Benoit. Now you have no more headshots, and yes, sometimes in an extreme rules match,
occasionally you get a headshot.
Yeah, but they get fined for that, But in an extreme rules match, you want to see old ECW. I want to put you through a flaming table, give you a freaking head, shot to the head with a barbed wire baseball bat or a flaming bat. But that's not the way it works anymore. That's not what wrestling is anymore. And you know what? You have to thank Chris Benoit for that. And you can sit there and say, "Oh, but he had to murder his family. Something had to happen." If he murders his family, he murdered his family. Unfortunately, there's nothing we can do about that.
Yeah,
He wasn't in his right capacity of mind, as MVP said.
and that's like Lawrence Taylor not being in the NFL Hall of Fame because of what's going on with his personal life. It has nothing to do with that. The guy performed his whole career as an athlete.
Yeah.
He deserves to be there. He was one of the greatest
He put his
New York
body
Giants of all time.
I'm sorry, he put his body on the line
For our entertainment.
day
For-
in and day
he
out.
did
And
it
you have
for
people
us.
sitting here talking about him. If he committed murder, he committed murder.
Mm-hmm.
How many people don't we have in our public system jails where they committed murder? You don't see people bashing them. We've had famous people commit murder.
We're pretty sure Ray Lewis is going to the Hall of Fame, and he was convicted of manslaughter. Two people.
Nobody ever brings up the fact that Jimmy Superfly Snuka is having his trial reopened, his case reopened for the murder of an ex-girlfriend of his back in the 80s. Nobody brings that up.
Yeah, and he's already in the Hall of Fame?
We have a Hall of Famer by the name of Mike Tyson, who was one of the most dangerous men in this world, but he's a convicted rapist, and he's a Hall of Famer. He never produced anything for the company. He never made the company
Any money.
dime.
Yeah. Well, he made him some money, but it was just for, whatever,
For
3 months.
For
3 months that he was in the company.
Tyson Austin, that's about it.
Yeah.
You know, he never made them anything
And,
else.
and we made...
Chris Benoit went out there, jumped ship. He was actually WCW champion when he left, and he jumped ship.
Mm-hmm.
But speaking of, you know, as we're bringing up Benoit being in the Hall of Fame, where we have for the Hall of Fame for the WWE this year, we have Lita,
Yeah.
the Ultimate Warrior, and Jake the Snake as of this moment. It's been rumored Paul Bear will be going in.
The rumor I heard also was NWO, possibly Hulk Hogan,
possibility.
Hulk Hogan, Scott Hall, and Kevin Nash.
He's going to be there.
Yeah, I think Hall might be trolling us. Truthfully, as Razor Ramon and Diesel, they surely don't belong there. I mean, Diesel had a good stretch of 3-4 years where he was the top guy of the company. He was the top guy.
Yeah. This is what happened to the company.
Yeah, but he jumped ship.
Yeah, he jumped ship. But it's funny because once he jumped ship, the company also went up. So, he was never a go-to guy. He wasn't a Triple H. He wasn't somebody. And to me, it's always funny because, he's always spoken about how CM Punk can be the face of the company, or how Daniel Bryan or Eddie Guerrero or Chris Benoit, and he called them vanilla midgets. Mind you, one of his best friends is X-Pac, and he's
smaller than me.
5'8", 5'9".
Might be smaller than that.
Great wrestler, by the way.
Doesn't belong in the Hall of Fame at all.
People were talking down about him.
Wasn't Sean Whitman recently talking about somebody being in the Hall of Fame? Like that? Oh, he doesn't live in the Hall of Fame because he couldn't wrestle.
He was talking about
somebody couldn't wrestle.
I don't recall his tweet, but he was complaining about somebody being able to go. And I always say wrestle. Sean Waltman, aka X-Pac, 6-Pac, whatever you want to call him, was
1, 2, 3 kid.
Was a hell of a wrestler. And you know what? He came up in the wrong era. If he would have came up today, he probably would have been. He wouldn't have been able to make noise.
No, he probably wouldn't.
Unfortunately, you do have some acronyms called X-Pac Heat, but
and
that's a different story.
X-Pac worked because he's a psychopath and sex sells, and he was, a raging alcoholic who used drugs, and he fit right into the clique. He fit right into the the Degeneration X mold.
He pays to be friends with Triple H. That's all I say.
Apparently, it really does because.
I am looking forward though to seeing what comes up. We have a couple of weeks left to WrestleMania. It's exactly a month away.
I don't see Bearer making it this year. I'm going to dispute that rumor. I'm going to dispute. I think NWO can do it, but if they do it, they're only going to do those 3.
The NWO was half the WCW locker room.
Yeah, my only gripe with the NWO is one thing. You're going to induct them before you induct Degeneration X. And that, to me, doesn't make sense considering that DX is the WWE's saving grace.
I mean, but at the same time, NWO, my mind, again, I don't know how much you followed WCW at the moment, if you did or you didn't at all.
Really that big.
Again,
once in a blue moon.
When, you have something going, when the other company is 2 wrestlers left from, when Kevin Nash and Scott Hall left the WWE, at the time known as WWF.
Yeah.
You had Jim Ross bringing out fake Diesel and fake Razor Ramon.
I remember the midgets.
And To be quite honest with you, when you take, because they were too talented. I mean, Razor Ramon is very underrated in my opinion.
Yeah,
Scott Hall
is an awesome performer. The guy was built like a moose.
He was very, very underrated in my mind. He's very, he's one of those very agile. Shawn Michaels didn't have that WrestleMania 10 ladder match by himself.
Yeah, a lot, and that's one thing that he says in his DVD. By the way, if you haven't seen it, Mr. WrestleMania, it's a really good DVD. It gives you some really good insight into what he's thinking. But he turns around and he says, a lot of people say, wow, Shawn went out there and had a match for the ladder. Razor Ramon, rest, man. Yo, Razor
who won the match? Wait, who won the match?
Razor.
Just saying. Razor won the match for a reason.
So he says Shawn makes a good point of saying this. Shawn Michaels was 225 or 230 at that time of that match. Razor Ramon was about 4 inches taller than him and outweighed him by about 40 pounds. And he says, man, that guy's a stud. That guy's a true stud. And for him to go out there and put on a match like that with me shows character, because he could have easily said, no, I don't want to.
Razor was in the AWA before it went down. Vern Gagne's company out in Minnesota. He ran. And he was their heavyweight champion at one point, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
He was heavyweight champion material. He was big, solid on the mic. He has a promo where he's cutting out in the Washington Heights and he's walking into a store. Again, it all goes back to working your gimmick. This is a guy who speaks a lick of Spanish.
Hey yo,
grabs a toothpick and he buys into the Tony Montana Cuban. Gimmick.
The other rumor that's going on right now is that DDP might get in. The whole DDP yoga, his affiliation with Jake the Snake. Quick side note, Jake, we wish you a speedy recovery. We know that you have skin cancer. Hang in there, stay positive, man, and you will eventually walk down the aisle. And
sickest DDT ever. Sickest DDT ever.
I heard a story about the DDT. He apparently did it. And they were like, it was like a screw up. Like the guy stepped on his toe. He had him in a headlock, a front face lock, and then the guy stepped on his toe and he went to go do something and he ended up DDT. And they were like, "Oh, what's that called?" He goes, "A DDT."
What does the DDT stand for? We will tweet this to you. Maybe you can help us, because you have by far the sickest DDT. No, Randy Orton, it's not yours. But I would say big man. Going back to the Hall of Fame, I would like to see Paul Bearer go in. Going back, counteracting what you're saying with NWO going first. Yeah. NWO deserves to go first, because without NWO, there's no DX.
Okay.
You can say that much. Without NWO, we don't have the Attitude Era, because they pushed the envelope.
They
forced the WWE's cards.
Yeah, they forced WWE to evolve.
You have the talent in the WWE side, where you have Austin involved, you have Triple H come out, Shawn Michaels gets a little bit edgier and gets to display more of his own character. Mm-hmm. You have Bret Hart going with the anti-American, which to me was one of my favorite parts of his gimmick. Mm-hmm.
When they
WWE started pushing the envelope, started pushing, and it gives us the Attitude Era, and it gives us the Monday Night Wars.
It gives us Stone Cold. It gives us The Rock.
These big names that overtook wrestling. Nowadays, yes, Hulk Hogan would be one of the names that you hear when you ask people what you know about wrestling.
So, but let's go with this. If the NWO goes in, right, and you have what the rumor is that the WrestleMania 1 main event is also going to go in, right? 30 years WrestleMania, they're going to put that in, which will be Mr. T, Hulk Hogan versus Paul Orndorff and Roddy Piper.
Hot Rod.
Yeah, one of my favorites.
By the way, side note, I tweeted this to him. I tweeted this one. By the way, if you look at the damn pay-per-view main event, when Muhammad Ali takes a swing at Paul Orndorff, or Roddy Piper, I don't remember which one exactly, and hits him, that's an automatic disqualification. So technically speaking, Roddy Piper won the match. Yeah. But number two is Roddy Piper should have, and I don't know why, who in their right mind never gave that man a heavyweight championship.
Yeah. One of the greatest to never win the title.
Never win the title. He's the greatest. The greatest to never win that belt, because he was solid on the mic, solid worker. Put him up against Ric Flair, Ricky Steamboat, Macho Man, anybody. This man was solid gold.
Yeah, and I mean, so there's a possibility that Hulk Hogan could be inducted for that match, the NWO, and he's already inducted as the Immortal Hulk Hogan when he had his retirement match with The Rock, and
What you gonna do, brother?
so Hulk Hogan could be a 3-time Hall of Famer by the end of this month.
I mean, going back to the whole original argument, NWO and DX. On top of that, I don't see Triple H being able to share the platform. If they do go in, they will probably go in 2016.
Yeah, no,
because the biggest rumor I've heard, and it's not even for WrestleMania 30, it's actually for WrestleMania 31, is that the most electrifying man in sports entertainment today, the People's Champ, The Rock, Rocky Maivia, Dwayne Johnson, whatever you want to call him, will be their main guy for the Hall of Fame.
Which means that next year he'll have his retirement match.
Hopefully, because we don't want to see him back.
3 times in a lifetime, guys.
No.
John Cena's going to retire. Mark my
But
words. Either that or The Undertaker.
I really do not see Triple H sharing that platform with The Rock. So I see him going DX in 2016.
So, do we see Triple H going in as just DX, or do we see him going in as the game Triple H and DX? 2-time Hall of Famer?
He will be going in as 2 if that's the case.
And
I don't see the WWE putting in the 4 Horsemen and letting Ric Flair go in twice and not let it get. He basically runs the company, so if he can go in as he can go in as
it's
Hunter Hearst Helmsley.
It's possible. It's possible that this year could feature one other big name, Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon could headline this induction.
I can wish, and I hope Shane McMahon comes back to induct him because Shane McMahon deserves it.
But that to me could be the I would accept that as my headliner for that. I'll be honest. Mr. McMahon, the character, one of the greatest villains of all time. At one point, he was the top heel of the company.
Man, the guy won the damn belt and gave it up. Right afterwards.
He put on some matches, man. Shawn Michaels WrestleMania match. Shawn Michaels goes out at WrestleMania to face Vince McMahon. That's like Mr. WrestleMania. We want you to go wrestle with this broomstick that we have right here. Put on a match.
He sells better than Cena, so it's okay.
Vince took some stiff shots, man.
Vince McMahon, you got to give it up to him. I never would have thought Ted Turner would have came down to the ring and fought.
He would have never.
Paul Heyman was too overweight to do it in ECW, but.
I'm pretty sure.
And I still don't see Dixie Carter stepping in the ring with Gail Campbell, whatever the case is. We even have to give it up to her. We even have to get up for Stephanie McMahon, who at one point was the women's champion. And we have to get up with Shane McMahon, because who else in their right mind?
Shane, I think, held the Cruiserweight title.
No, he held the Hardcore title.
And
who in their right mind is, the company's boss
jumping
son.
Off a 50
dropping that elbow on the Big Show.
Yeah, man.
Getting put in through the thing. Through the King of the Ring sign by Kurt Angle, who botched it the first time and then hits him again the second time.
We should put that clip on here, actually.
Yes, we should. We'll put that clip on here because that was actually
I'm pretty sure they have it on
But speaking of the Big Show, me and my guy here,
man,
Crippler, we were debating, who are the biggest,
And since we're the 5 moves we're doing, we're gonna do the top 5.
Our top 5 big men, super heavyweights, and by super heavyweights, we're not gonna include Undertaker. We're not gonna include Kane because they weren't really super heavyweights. They were just freakishly tall and fucking athletic.
Yeah, and by far they would be 1 and 2 of
the list. So unfair, but we're talking about super heavyweights, larger in life,
big man guys,
big. Yeah, they look sloppy and obese.
Yes,
and.
So my number 5 is going to be King Kong Bundy.
Yeah, Kong Bundy definitely. He was a good heel down in the 80s, late 80s, early 90s. Was actually one of the victims for the WrestleMania streak from Undertaker.
And the man looked like a beast. He really did.
He actually to me looked like Humpty Dumpty because he had that ice shape and it was really freakishly weird.
What's funny is I was watching this thing and they had Savio Vega had Los Boricuas.
Wow.
There was this guy with this OD hair on his back. I think his name was like Jesus or Miguel or something like that.
Some Spanish name, of course.
This guy's hair reminded me of King Kong Bundy, and that's the only thing I remember of King Kong Bundy. Sadly,
I would have to put the Big Show 4th. I personally, because we have other wrestlers who go on.
You know what? I'm gonna go with Vader.
Vader.
belongs on this list. Big time athlete. He was like a 2-sport athlete.
Yes, he was actually a linebacker,
yeah.
I think, or defensive end.
For like Chargers or something like that. That's why he had that hair style. Oh, but the guy can wrestle.
All right, man. I'll do you a better one. For my number 3 would actually be Vader, and if that's the case, because Vader to me, the Big Show did in the beginning of his career would do standing top rope moonsaults. I think it was moonsault or. No, it wasn't moonsault. It was a drop kick he did when he first came up.
He was super athletic for a big man. He got
the push, but the only reason why he got the push was because they was billing him as the son
of Andre
the Giant, which was unfair because Andre the Giant was a beast.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna put 3 Andre actually. I think Big Show's top 2.
Oof.
Yeah. Andre for me. I don't remember much of Andre. A lot of the stuff I see is vintage footage.
Hold on. Well, we have the WWE Network, bro. Go back and do your study.
No, what I mean is I've watched some of his stuff. The guy was great. I mean, he was a larger than life personality. He was.
I would just argue with you though. Remember,
he was undefeated. Ever.
He came up in the era where the leg drop was a. You couldn't kick out of the leg drop. Nowadays, you do leg drops just for the hell of it. Here's a leg drop.
But it's because it's coming from Hulk Hogan. It's more electrifying. It does more damage. You just have to understand that. It's like Jake the Snake's DDT and Randy Orton's DDT. Everybody kicks out Randy Orton's DDT, which is a little more vicious because it's higher elevated. But
he doesn't even hit it correctly.
Jake the Snake hits that DDT, you're done. You're done. That's it. Just hang it up. Match is over.
Anyways, for my number 2, I will put Andre at number 2.
Okay.
I will put Andre at number 2, and there's only one reason why I would put Andre at number 2. Again, it's not his fault. He came up in the wrong era. He came up there. He was a sideshow. He was treated more of a sideshow in WWE. The NWA had the utmost respect for this man. This guy, he was selling out shows for the NWA. This guy would go up to Canada for Stu Hart's promotion, Stampede Wrestling up in Canada, and he would sell it out for them. Any company had an issue.
The World Wrestling Federation.
There you go. And who would your number 2 be?
Oh, it's gonna go Show, man. It has to be Show. Show, for me, Show was a solid performer, man. He definitely made NWO not NWO. He made WCW for me because like I said, I wasn't a really big time guy, but to watch him get jackhammered, that's a 500-pound man lifted vertical for 4 or 5 seconds. I understand
Goldberg not shitting on himself.
Yeah, I understand that Goldberg's doing a lot of work there, but it takes an athlete to get up.
Yeah, because Show was still actually elevated straight up.
Yeah, and what about the F5 that broke the ring by Brock Lesnar, or the John Cena AA that shifted the ring, or
you do realize when you say Hulk Hogan and John Cena, we're talking the same person.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. I know. But I'm assuming we're gonna agree on number 1.
There's only one guy that could be number 1.
I bet you guys out there can't even remember this guy's name.
Yeah.
He put Undertaker in a casket.
Yes.
He headlined WrestleMania 9. Unfortunately, jobbed out to Hulk Hogan.
He was part of the most historic Samoan wrestling family of all time, the Inoue family.
The Inoue family, and we're going to talk about Yokozuna. I mean, this guy was at least a good 6'5". I can't really sit to say he was pretty big, but this guy was at least 5'50",
maybe more, man.
This guy would do a standing sidekick.
His ass cheek might be 500 pounds.
A standing sidekick, and it was nothing. He was very athletic for a big guy, and he was a super heavyweight.
Yeah.
Back in the kayfabe days of the early '90s, late '90s, you still had the era kayfabe. You really thought Bret Hart had no chance in hell to beat him. Even people
how could you put those big ass legs in a sharpshooter? I think that was the question that they were saying.
That was the question.
How's Bret gonna win?
How can he put the? He ended up beating him. For whatever technicality it was, but Yokozuna was and will always be one of the greatest.
And he might have the only finishing move that's only been kicked out of once.
And
The
that
bonsai
was,
drop.
and that
By
was Taker. I mean, Taker's Taker.
He doesn't sell anybody's moves.
It's okay. He's Taker. He's not the Ultimate Warrior. He will put you over.
Yeah, he puts you
won't
over,
sell
but
you
he won't
shit.
sell you shit.
All right, guys. But that is the 5 Moves of Doom show, and
Yeah.
thank you for joining us.
Yeah, man. Check out the meme after this. Follow us on all our pages. It's listed underneath. And we're going to put up some interesting videos that follow as well. So
5 Moves of Doom. Thank you, guys.
check it.